Here is a simple experiment. Two people sit across from each other. Neither speaks the other's language. No translator, no phone, no shared words at all. One of them has an apple, the other has a knife. Within 30 seconds, without a single word, they have negotiated a trade. This shouldn't work, and yet it does every time. Psychologists spent decades trying to explain why. What they found reaches back 500,000 years and forward to every message you have ever sent. It all traces back to one thing: the human obsession with being understood. But that obsession needed a body capable of expressing it. In 1989, in Kibra Cave in Israel, researcher Baruch Arensberg's team made a discovery that didn't make sense: a 60,000-year-old bone from a Neanderthal. It was virtually identical to the same bone sitting in your throat right now. Here's why that matters. There is a small bone in your throat called the hyoid. It's the only bone in your body not connected to any other bone. It floats, held only by muscles, and it's the reason you can speak at all. Without it, the fine muscular control needed for complex speech is physically impossible. Chimps don't have one like ours. Almost nothing does. Which meant Neanderthals, a completely separate species, had the same physical capacity for speech that you do. That creates a problem, because if Neanderthals had it and we shared a common ancestor 500,000 years ago, then the capacity for language is far older than anyone thought. Not 50,000 years old, not 100,000. 500,000 years old. Here's how strange. That is, the Neanderthals we share that ancestor with, we used to think they were grunting brutes. Stooped, slow, barely conscious. Then in 1989, a single bone changed everything. Not a skull, not a weapon, a throat bone the size of your thumb. And suddenly the brute in the cave could speak. Researchers who worked on the Kebra cave excavation said it stopped them cold, because it meant that 60,000 years ago, a Neanderthal could have told you a story, could have argued with you, could have said, "I was here, we just weren't listening." But having the capacity for speech still doesn't explain how two people with no shared language traded an apple for a knife in 30 seconds. For that, you need something the hyoid cannot give you. Think about the last time you walked into a room and immediately knew something was wrong. Nobody told you. Nobody said a word. You just knew. That instinct is the oldest communication technology humans have. In 2014, researchers at the University of St. Andrews spent months recording 80 wild chimpanzees in Uganda and built the first ever dictionary of chimp gestures. 66 distinct intentional gestures. 19 specific messages. Here's what's strange about it. Chimps and humans are the only species that deliberately send messages to other individuals. But chimps can only send messages about right now, your food, your threat. This moment, nothing else. The moment you try to tell a chimp about something that happened yesterday, the system breaks. It simply cannot carry that information. And yet, somehow, 50,000 years ago, two humans with no shared language sat across from each other and negotiated a trade, not about right now, about a future exchange. A hypothetical agreement, an imagined outcome. Psychologists call this displacement, the ability to communicate about things not present. It is the single cognitive leap that separates a chimp gesture from every idea ever written down, and it means something uncomfortable. Most of what makes human communication extraordinary has nothing to do with words. Studies show 60 to 70% of all human communication is still nonverbal. The body was talking long before the mouth was. But the body can only speak across a room. Humans needed to speak across time. In 1944, teenage boys in France were chasing a dog through the woods near Lascaux. The dog disappeared into a hole in the ground. They followed it and found themselves standing inside a cave-covered floor-to-ceiling with paintings of animals, bulls, horses, deer, painted 17,000 years ago. One of the boys, Marcel Ravadat, later said he felt like he had walked into a cathedral. He was 17 years old and had just stumbled into the longest conversation in human history, a message sent 17,000 years ago, received by a teenager chasing his dog. This happened. Remember this. Pass it on. It worked. But Lascaux wasn't the beginning, it was an echo of something much older. 73,000 years ago in Blombos Cave, South Africa, a human picked up an ochre rock and drew a deliberate crosshatch pattern. Researcher Christopher Henshelwood published the discovery in Science in 2002. The oldest known drawing made by a human hand. This was not art. This was something stranger for the first time in history. A thought was stored outside a human brain. Which means, for the first time in history, a thought could outlive the person who had it. And in 2021, researchers studying European cave paintings found something that made that even stranger. 32 recurring geometric symbols across multiple cave sites corresponded to lunar month counts. Ancient humans were not decorating caves. They were building a data storage system 40,000 years before the computer. External memory solved time, but distance was still unsolved. Your village is under attack right now. The nearest ally is 10 miles away. You have minutes. The Yoruba people of Nigeria solved this with the dundun, an hourglass-shaped drum, two drum heads connected by leather tension cords. The player squeezed the cords to raise and lower the pitch, rising, falling, exactly like a human voice. Because Yoruba is a tonal language where pitch determines meaning, the drum could replicate entire spoken phrases, not codes, not simple signals, actual language, transmitted through wood and leather. A 2021 study in Current Biology confirmed it. The dundun accurately replicated speech with remarkable detail. Messages crossed 10 miles directly, then drummer to drummer, until a message had traveled across an entire kingdom in minutes. When European colonizers first encountered it, they thought it was supernatural. It wasn't. It was the same drive that made two strangers trade an apple for a knife without words. The obsession with being understood, finding a new piece of hardware to run on. In 1976, a journalist named Alex Haley traveled to a small village in Gambia. He was looking for his family's origins. A griot named Kebakanga Fofana sat down with him and began reciting generations of names, births, migrations, battles, going back centuries. Then he reached a name Haley recognized from his grandmother's stories, Kunta Kinte, a name passed down through oral tradition in America for 200 years, matched by a griot in Africa who had never heard of Alex Haley. Two memory systems, an ocean apart, holding the same name. Haley wept. He later said it was the most overwhelming moment of his life. Here's how that's even possible. The griots of West Africa memorized complete genealogies. Every name, birth, marriage, and death, stretching back centuries. Some griot families maintained 70 generations of memory, not written anywhere, held entirely inside a human mind, using rhythm, repetition, and structured storytelling as the architecture. Aboriginal Australians solved a related problem differently. Songlines, navigational routes across thousands of miles, encoded entirely in song. Each verse corresponded to a specific landmark, a hill, a river bend, a water source. As travelers moved through the landscape, they sang, and the song told them exactly where they were. Navigation and memory were not separate tasks. They were the same action. Modern neuroscience confirms what these civilizations discovered by necessity. 6 weeks of memory palace training doubles recall ability. The brain these people were using is the same brain sitting in your skull right now. You just stopped asking it to work that hard. Then around 5,000 years ago, writing was invented in Mesopotamia, Egypt, China, Mesoamerica, independently, almost simultaneously, as if the whole world reached the same conclusion at the same moment. And one man refused to take part. Socrates, the greatest philosopher of the ancient world, refused to write a single word, not because he couldn't, because he saw something coming that nobody else did. He said it directly, recorded in Plato's Phaedrus around 370 BC. This invention will produce forgetfulness, an elixir not of memory, but of reminding. He was right. Research confirms that people who write things down remember them significantly less than people forced to hold information in memory. The moment humans outsourced memory to paper, the capacity that built the griots and the songlines began to quietly disappear. But Socrates missed something. Writing did something memory never could. It decoupled ideas from the humans who had them. Before writing, when a griot died, everything they carried died with them. After writing, ideas became immortal. Every book you have ever read is a dead person's mind, still running inside your head. And here is the part that should stop you cold. Socrates himself only exists today because Plato wrote his words down. The very argument against writing, preserved by writing. From an open palm raised at a riverbank, to ochre crosshatches in a South African cave, to 4 teenagers following a dog into the longest conversation in human history, to talking drums crossing kingdoms in minutes, to a griot in Gambia holding a name that crossed an ocean, to Socrates in Athens, to writing, to printing, to screens, to this. Every single one of these systems, separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles, was solving the same problem, the same drive, running on different hardware, the obsession with being understood. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. We now communicate more than any humans who have ever lived. More messages, more words, more channels, more reach. And yet researchers consistently find that loneliness is rising, that people feel less understood than any previous generation. We have more communication and less connection, because communication and connection are not the same thing. Communication is the signal. Connection is whether the other mind actually received it. For 500,000 years, humans built increasingly sophisticated systems to close that gap. The griots closed it through memory. The songlines closed it through landscape. The dun closed it through sound. And somewhere between the notifications and the noise, we stopped asking whether the gap was actually closing. Two people, an apple, a knife, 30 seconds. No words. Understood. That is what 500,000 years of human communication was building toward. The question is whether we still know how to do it.